So now I'm going to show you the partial quotient strategy to use for division. When you have a problem like 829 divided by 3, the first thing you want to do is set up your division problem like this. So you take your dividend, which is the number being divided, and put it underneath. We call it a big 7. You put your divisor, the number you're dividing by, on the outside of the 3. For partial quotient, it's going to be very similar to area model or partial product in that you want to think of easy benchmark numbers, hundreds, tens, ones, sometimes thousands. Since this number only goes into the hundreds, I'm going to start with my easy benchmark number of 100, then go to tens, then ones. This is just up here to remind me of what place value I want to be starting at and working down towards. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at my divisor and see how many times it can go into my dividend, thinking in hundreds. So I'm trying to multiply my divisor by a value of 100 or 200 or 300 to get as close to 829 as I can. So for example, let me come over here and make some notes. I know 3 times 100 is 300. So I can get closer to 829 than 300. I can keep going up by hundreds. So next I'll do 3 times 200, which equals 600. So I'll try one more, 3 times 300, which is 900. Now that I've gone over my dividend, I know I can't use this value here, so I'm going to cross that out. So I know that 3 times 200 equals 600, which is less than my dividend. So I'm going to use the value of 200 as a partial quotient. So I'm going to put it over here on the side, and then I'm going to multiply, just like I did here. 3 times 200 equals 600. So I write it underneath my dividend, and I subtract. What you get left when you subtract has to either be smaller than this number or 0, and if it's not, you have to keep going. So I look at what's left over. It's 229. I know I can't go in 100 more times because 3 times 100 is 300 and is larger than that. So I'm pretty much finished with my hundreds place value. So next I go to my tens place. Okay, so I'm trying to multiply 3 times a value of 10, 20, 30, 40 to get as close to 229 as I can. So if I start over here with 3 times 10 equals 30, obviously I can get a whole lot closer than that. 3 times 20 is 60. So I'm not going to waste my time listing all of them. You certainly can. If you don't know them, but I'm going to skip a few because I've got to get up to close to 229. So I'm going to skip all the way up to 3 times 60. I know that's 180, still getting closer. 3 times 70 is 210. 3 times 80 is 240. So when I got to 3 times 80, I went over 229, so I can't use that value. So I'm going to use 3 times 70 because it equals 210. So my 70 goes on the outside over here because that's how many pieces I'm taking out. So 3 times 70, we said already, was 210. I write it, I subtract it. So now I have 19 left. Again, it's not 0 and it's not smaller than my divisor, so I have to keep dividing. So I'm down to my ones place now. So I'm trying to multiply my divisor times a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get as close to 19 as I can. So using facts I already know, obviously I know 3 times 1 is 3. These are facts you should know in your head. They're your easy multiplication facts. So getting as close as I can, I'm going to skip a few here. I know that 3 times 6 is 18. And without going over, I'm going to use 6. So 6 goes out here on the outside. Once again, we multiply 3 times 6 to get 18. We subtract, and 1 is left. Now 1 is less than my divisor. It's not 0, but it's still less than my divisor, so that means I'm finished dividing. So just like in partial product or area model, we had to add up our values to get our final answer. You're going to do the same thing here. So you can either use mental math to add these, or you can stack them up and add. Whatever you get is your answer. So 276 is your answer, but don't forget about your leftover, or we call it your remainder. So your remainder goes up here right beside it.